save them. And that's why, but on the other hand, and I think that's the next step, can we approve Bayside? Should be investigated. But by the same token, I've managed to come out because nobody's condemned me or said, if you're going to talk about that message, and I think that Jesus and the Blessed Mother wouldn't allow that. But it's a test for all of us. But it should be checked out, and if they condemn it, I'm sure that anybody connected with Bayside, if the Archbishop of New York would condemn it and say, don't go there, we would all stop. But it will never happen because it's too authentic. It's too close. You'd have to condemn the whole Catholic Church for what it teaches, and then you can condemn both of them, but you can't condemn one without the other, in my opinion. But the thing is that we don't have the investigation. To me, that should be the next step. Let's thoroughly investigate it, and it has never been done. As far as I've talked to the workers and everybody involved, it's never really been checked out. Now, how can you condemn something which you don't know anything about? It's like somebody saying, I don't like spinach because I've never eaten it, but I don't like it. I don't like what I heard about it. I don't like the Catholic Church and what it teaches, but I've never heard what they really said. I just heard rumors. Now, we've been just too long on rumors, and there's too many people that their souls are in danger of eternal damnation that we should immediately at least ask the authorities to check it out once and for all, and I'm sure that in the end it's going to come out beautiful for everyone.
Yeah, Father, you've been on the ground several times. You've prayed with us at the vigils. You've said many rosaries. Did you see anything being done that was wrong in your opinion or in the Church's opinion? Is it wrong to gather together to pray the rosary?
No, I think most people would agree with that. In fact, that's what impressed me. Because like I say, I went by the written messages. I've never really met Veronica, but I always went by written messages. But what impressed me was that there were 2 buses coming all the way from Wilkes-Barre every time you had a vigil on the grounds, and they prayed the rosary all the way in for the peace of the world and for the good of mankind, and that inspired me. In fact, I even led the rosary for them. And I said, that's wonderful, before you even get there, and when you get there, you're going to be saying rosaries. They said 15 decades before the bus even got there. And another thing, I saw a black man kneeling in the snow from the time they started, which would be around 8:30, I think, until they closed, almost 3 hours, and it looked like he was a statue, but I was right next to him, and I knew he was a real man, and I was admiring that he could kneel. I couldn't even do it because my knees were that bad now. But he knelt there all that time for 3 hours, and I asked him why he did that, and he said, it's in penance, reparation for the sins of the world. And I've been impressed. Now, some people do question the miraculous photos, which I don't really understand that much, and I'm not capable of interpreting them. And I think they're more for people who need that kind of help to believe. I don't need. I'll tell you a little story. People say, well, if you see, seeing is believing. But to doubting Thomas of the gospel, or who asked that he won't believe in the resurrection of our Lord until he puts his fingers in the holes of our Lord and his hand into his side. But our Lord said to him, you have believed, now that you have seen. But more blessed are they who have not seen. And I operate on that principle. I don't need any photos. I don't need any extra. It's just blind faith in what I read and what my mind tells me. But some people, their faith is a little weaker. They need photos, and I think the photos serve a very good, because I've seen these people getting all excited about these photos, and some of them really are fantastic. I can't interpret them, but they're fantastic, and I said they're a big help to all of us because they even helped me, but I don't look for them. But I know a lot of people are really, their faith is very much strengthened because of the photos, and I think they serve a purpose for certain types of people. Yeah.
There's something like spiritual candy. Would you not call it that?
Yes.
I think Padre Pio referred it.
Well, they say that candy isn't good for everyone, but it does a lot of good for most. So those people who can appreciate it, they benefit by it. Yes, in that sense, yes. It's like a little bonus, like a little piece of candy. It is an essential part of the message, but it's like a little icing on the cake. You might put it that way, too.
What do the clergy object to? Or at least the Chancery of Brooklyn. What do they object to in the messages?
I think the biggest objection is that the church hasn't approved it. Now, if that were true, in 1917, there were 70,000 people. Of course, some of them were not Catholic, some were atheists. But the priests and the Catholics that went there all went there against the wishes of their pastor, but they were never condemned either. They were just told not to go. They were advised not to go, and that's what's happening here. No one has ever said they condemned it, but they're saying, well, we advise you not to go because the church hasn't approved it. Well, you know, if they would have waited and not gone until the church approved Fatima, there wouldn't have been those 70,000 people there to witness the miracle of the sun. So God seems to have his own way of testing us, and it's with or without church approval. But time is coming. I mean, it's over 13 years that the messages have been in New York. It took Fatima 13 years. So I think we're right in that time now when the church should take a good look at it. And I said, no one has ever said to me, as I said before, this and this that was said is against Catholic teaching. They only say the people involved are crazy and they're wrong, but they never tell you where. And I think they don't even know where, because they don't even know what the messages say. They don't even read them. They hear a rumor about somebody saw this and said that, and there's too much finality about the outcome of the message, like I'm going to go to hell forever because I didn't know the message. I think I'd like to know the message and then find out if it has any bearing on my future, and it does. But I won't know what that is if I don't know what the message is, what the messages are. So I think the next thing we have to ask is the authorities would make a study of it, if they haven't already done so. If they have, they haven't proven it to the people involved. They say they weren't even questioned. So this is so serious that I think it's time to insist that they study it and make the proper recommendations. And I'm sure that if they study it and read the messages, I feel they're going to feel like I did it. There's no contradiction between what the church has always taught. And if you're going to condemn Bayside, then you have to condemn the Catholic Church. And there's a lot of people out there who would like to condemn both.
Right.
And that's why I'm not popular and you're not popular. And anybody's connected. Yeah.
Do you think, Father, there are certain very strong statements in the Bayside message which they might object to? For instance, some messages have said that Satan has entered in the portals of the Catholic Church. Would you like to elaborate on this statement?
Yes, I've heard that, and I think we can say that Pope Paul VI of blessed memory had said something, had alluded to that towards the end of his life. And the only reason I could accept that is that so many things have crept into the Catholic Church that is upsetting to the clergy and the faithful, especially the faithful, that how could you ascribe, how did these changes come about in the church? You can't put your finger on it and say, well, a cardinal or a bishop or a father so-and-so is responsible, and yet they're there. So there's been some hanky-panky, there's been some conniving, and who's clever enough to go into the church and cause that trouble without making it too obvious? No one but Satan. And St. Pope Paul VI realized that, and he says, Satan has gotten in the church. He didn't even know how he got there, but he snuck in. And he made the changes which looked authentic until you realize, how in the world did that come into the church? Doesn't sound like what we were taught. And yes, we all wonder how they got in. And now, fortunately, Pope John Paul, our present Pope, is calling a synod in the fall which will review some of these abuses which have crept in with the devil's instigation and are there, and he's aware of it because he's going to check on it. And I hope that these abuses will be found out and corrected, and I am praying for that, and that would be a wonderful thing.
Father Skurla, thank you for speaking with us and for being on our program today.
You're very welcome, Frank.
And for all of you who are interested in knowing more information on the Shrine of Our Lady of the Roses, please write to Roses, P.O. Box 52, Bayside, New York 11361. That address again, Roses, Box 52, 11361.